No, dude, it's like bounce go wow wow, like porn.
Okay, how is that noise like porn?
That's porn.
You've seriously never heard anyone say that?
Like say a silly little song about porn? No, I've not. What?
There they are, my brave fellow combatants.
Hi, Eli.
I gotta tell you guys, I gotta say, I had my doubts. I was up all night thinking, why don't we just not, But, now that we're here and now that we're doing it, it feels good, It feels good. It's just gonna be all out there.
I do. What are you talking about?
Oh, just this week's show. We're going to talk about all the forbidden places that our podcasts aren't allowed to go. Like, and...
Whoa!
Definitely
Hey!
not doing an episode about either of those things. Nope.
Eli, this week's episode is about literally forbidden places, like Monkey Island and stuff like that.
Forbidden, like, you can't go there.
Like you can't go there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, I honestly, that's a little bit of a relief.
Why do you have a bunch of pictures of Anthony Bourdain on a whiteboard?
Doesn't matter now, Tom. Doesn't matter now.
Hello and welcome to Citation Needed, the podcast where we choose a subject, read a single article about it on Wikipedia, and pretend we're experts, because this is the internet, and that's how it works now. I'm Noah. I'm going to be guiding you through this unofficial tour. Cecil will be unable to join us, but I can't do it without a few accomplices. First up, please welcome my visually impaired lookouts, Tom and Eli.
Okay, I see what you did there. Barely.
Do you? Okay. Yeah.
And you telling everyone about my glasses is actually a HIPPO violation, so get ready to hear from our lawyer.
It's close to a hippo violation as a hippo one, yeah. So, and also, of course, joining us is the guy who won't admit that he's too tall to fit inside that Bush costume anymore, Heath.
Okay. Still going to murder Kennedy, though.
Okay,
Yeah.
so now obviously we can't get started without thanking our patrons because we couldn't do the show if it wasn't for them. And if you'd like to learn how to join their ranks, be sure to stick around to the end of the show. And with that out of the way, tell us, Eli, what person, place, thing, concept, phenomenon, or event will we be talking about today?
We'll be talking about forbidden places.
All right, and Tom, you read the slideshow, probably. Are you ready to tell us what you learned?
Okay, it's an amalgamation of many slideshows. Noah.
Read a listicle on hotnews.com.
Outrageous.
All right, so why did you choose this topic?
All right, so in March of 2020, after the world stopped being useful and worth living in, I gave up on trying to go places or, find joy in life. Mm-hmm. Instead, I work in my basement, getting rickets, and gazing longingly at books and magazines filled with exotic places I wanted to go when I still bothered to have dreams. But the world isn't only filled with this kind of joyful, Insta-worthy beauty. In fact, there are a hell of a lot of very interesting and very strange places that are forbidden, not because the world has entered its slow-motion descent into entropy-fueled madness, but because these places are quite simply off fucking limits.
I used to worry about the opening paragraphs of Tom's essays, but now I like it. It's like a fun little check-in on his descent into madness. It's a through line for the podcast. It's nice.
Right. No, it's like Heath's sexual discovery,
Exactly,
descent into madness. Yeah.
I like that he has a basement full of physical books and magazines that he looks
Yeah.
at.
I do.
Keeping National Geographic alive one man at a time.
All right, let's start with Monkey Island, which is not really called Monkey Island, but also, yes, it fucking is.
Well, yeah, I mean, you just called it that.
I
yeah.
did.
I don't hear no sirens.
I'm talking here about a 2,000-acre island off the coast of South Carolina that is home to 4,000 rhesus monkeys and absolutely no other primates, including people. You see, in 1979, after India banned the export of monkeys for research purposes, the U.S. government needed a fresh source of simians. The solution, of course, was to establish a self-sufficient breeding population of rhesus reserves that they could tap into whenever they needed. They seeded Morgan Island off the coast of South Carolina with 1,400 monkeys, and the monkeys got down to business well enough that 43 years later, the island is now home to 4,000 of these horrible little critters.
Oh, all right. For whatever it's worth, that would technically be the least horrible collection of 4,000 primates in all of South Carolina, Tom.
Wait, does anyone else feel like they stopped thinking after the first guy said, "Why don't we just start a monkey island?" Like, there has to be a better way to source monkeys than
strategic
starting
monkey
a
reserve.
monkey island.
Yeah.
It's better than just like Monkey Mainland Town, I guess.
Well, that's true. That's true. For all we know, that was the first idea.
You're right, exactly.
We could each get him a typewriter and
This is
find out
South
once and for all.
Carolina.
More literate than everybody in South Carolina.
Yeah.
The government has, in the intervening years, grown cold on the need for monkeys, probably after Matthew Broderick made us all feel bad for nuking them in Project X, but
Yeah, I'm sure that's what did it. Yeah.
that's what did it, yeah. But what do you do with an island full of monkeys that are just fucking away, creating 750 new monkeys every year? Well, the government collects about 500 of them and secrets them away to research labs so that the outbreak monkey doesn't feel lonely. The island itself is federally protected. It is strictly off limits, which is for everyone's protection, since these monkeys are fiercely territorial and will cheerfully use their terrifying little hands to rip you to pieces if they can. Oh, and they also have herpes.
What?
That is a true thing. The original breeding stock was actually acquired from a research facility in Puerto Rico after a bunch of these herpes monkeys escaped and freaked out the locals.
Okay. I actually looked this up. So according to Wikipedia, the facility in Puerto Rico got overpopulated and there were outbreaks of herpes among people in the surrounding area in Puerto Rico.
People, you say?
At which point, quote, South Carolina stepped in to offer help. South Carolina.
We know herpes.
They were like, hey, I heard you guys have an issue with 4,000 herpetic fucking ninjas. I believe we can be of service. Who does that? Who in South Carolina's
We were
government
made for
suggested
this.
that?
Hey, sounds like you guys are fucking your monkeys. Would you like someone to hide the evidence on a forbidden island?
All right, now if monkeys aren't your thing, and they shouldn't be because monkeys are awful and scary and I hate them, consider not going to another horrifying island full of death. I am referring here to Snake Island, or Ilha de Comara Grande. This is a little spit of garbage land 20 miles off the southeastern part of Brazil. This Indiana Jones nightmare destination is only 106 acres or so in size, but the goddamn place is just absolutely chock full of snakes. Like, how chock full? Some estimates hold that there is one snake for every square meter of the island.
Jesus.
However, when I then fact-checked that, because it sounded insane, it turns out that is obviously impossible and untrue, since there would be no way any island could sustain quite that many fucking snakes.
Well, actually, little known fact, massive snake populations can survive indefinitely without food. If it wasn't for that, a lot of Egyptian temple traps wouldn't even make sense. Indiana Jones falls in, it's just a bunch of snake corpses, and they're like, right, what would they eat?
Skeletons.
What would they even...
Oh,
Just one really overweight snake.
Winner!
hey, don't take any treasure, okay? Oh, Jesus. Oh, don't go up that ramp. Oh, God. Well, I've made my peace with this. I'm the snake.
All right, well, still, there are a lot of goddamn snakes on this island. Estimates by people that have science degrees put the number at around 3,000 snakes. But this is still on an island of only 106 acres.
Jesus.
And these aren't just regular snakes. These aren't like garter snakes. These are a unique species of venomous viper that exists nowhere else on Earth, save this one island, which should absolutely be nuked from orbit. This viper is called the golden lancehead viper, and it has a venom that is hemotoxic and is one of the most venomous snakes in South America.
Cool. So, aside from James Bond villain lairs, any clue why this island exists, Tom?
No, the Brazilian government declared Snake Island to be off limits to all but a very few. Occasionally, researchers will be granted a permit to study snake stuff on Snake
or
Island.
dissidents, probably.
But to be given the permit, any scientific team is required to travel with a doctor, presumably so that someone can officially call the time of death. Now, there is a lighthouse on the island so that ships don't accidentally run aground, thereby forcing sailors to choose between drowning or having their red blood cells explode in their bodies like Pop Rocks until they bleed out within their own skin.
Okay. Do you guys feel like Tom's setting up a Kumite tournament between the murder islands?
Yeah.
And I'm excited. Like round 1, it's Snake Island versus Monkey Island. I'm betting on the snakes for round 1. I think I like the snakes.
I would take that bet. What
Really?
odds are you giving me? Yeah.
Have you even seen Kong versus Godzilla? God, jeez.
I'll give you
No
2 to
contest.
1. Snakes
That's
beat the
good.
monkeys.
Those are
good snake
odds. Those are great snake odds.
Are you crazy? The
Yes.
mongoose is the only thing that ever wins in the like blank versus blank fights when one of the blanks is snake. It's never anything but mongoose.
I could beat a snake.
You could beat up a snake. Wow. Okay, we're doing that now too.
All right, that's round 2. 100% that's round 2.
Let's make that round 1. Actually, let's
Who's
make that the
betting on
play-in
Eli?
game.
Now, still, because humans are what we are, and these snakes are actually super rare on a global level, and since it's impossible to convince fools that scarcity is not a synonym for value, there is a market for these muscle tubes full of poison. As a result, biopirates have been known to sneak onto the island to poach these danger noodles so some hapless mule can get caught with a Pringles can full of poison snakes on a flight to the fucking reptile show in Akron.
Okay, all right. Pringles can full of poisonous snakes on the fucking flight to a reptile show in Akron is the kind of sentence that feels like it just activated the Winter Soldier. What?
Now, let's not head now to another island where you absolutely should not go, North Sentinel Island. North Sentinel is one of a number of small islands in a chain along India's Bay of Bengal. Owing in part to the geography of the island, it's not near any major shipping routes, it has no natural harbors, it is surrounded by reefs. North Sentinel is a pain in the ass to get to, and that suits its inhabitants just fine.
Just Leo DiCaprio and Tilda Swinton stuck in a reef in their canoe. North Sentinel Island's like, no, thank you. No, thank you. Go back. Go back to it. You're going to fuck it up. You're definitely going to fuck it up. Just go ahead and back there.
So the inhabitants of North Sentinel Island are, and have been for thousands of years, completely uninterested in and hostile to contact from the outside world. In fact, their isolation, I think this is fascinating, their isolation is so complete that nobody knows what they call themselves because they do not share a language with anyone else in the world. The inhabitants of other islands in the nearby Andaman group of islands cannot communicate with the North Sentinelese at all. There is no shared dialect.
Yeah, okay. But the tone of go the fuck away and no white hippies, please, I feel like that's pretty universal, regardless of the exact wording, the noise of it, you know?
Remember back when we weren't jealous of them? Good times. Good times.
Now, attempts have been made on multiple occasions over the years to make and maintain contact. The results have been, to be very generous, unsuccessful. Armed with bows and arrows, the North Sentinelese fiercely guard their island from interlopers.
Again, universal language. Bows and arrows, like it all works.
In 1871, an Indian merchant vessel, the Nineveh, ran aground on the reef of North Sentinel Island. 86 passengers and 20 crew made it ashore and were left alone for 3 days before the North Sentinelese decided that they'd had enough of the house guests and they attacked with their bows and arrows. Now, the total population of North Sentinel Island isn't actually known, but it's not a lot of people. Somewhere, and I swear these are the numbers that I read, between 15 and 500, with most estimates closer to 150. So when the North Sentinelese men attacked the shipwrecked Indians, they very likely did not have an overwhelming force of numbers.
Okay, someone run over there and sneeze on one of them. We have no choice, guys. Just give him a hug.
The survivors managed to hold off the North Sentinelese until they were rescued, but this would set the tone for pretty much every encounter with the outside world. In 1896, an escaped convict fled the Great Andaman Penal Colony on a makeshift raft only to wash up on North Sentinel Island. A search party found his body with his throat cut and bristling like a hedgehog with arrows.
At first, they're like, oh, he must have run out of rings. Oh, you know what? That's a guy under there. Never mind.
So everybody pretty much left them the fuck alone for the next 100 years or so. For real. An anthropologist named Trinnic Neth Pandit worked way harder trying to build some trust with the North Sentinelese than I have or will try to do anything ever. For years and years and years, this guy would very, very carefully take a little boat over to the beach to drop off gifts in an attempt to build trust. It kind of worked in the sense that Pandy wasn't killed outright, though when he tried once to bring a photographer with him from National Geographic, that guy ended up with an arrow sticking out of his thigh. The closest Pandit ever really got was that he wasn't always greeted at the beach with raised arrows pointed at his face while he dropped off sacks of coconuts.
Okay, coconuts is a weird pick. I feel like the Sentinelese were like, hey man, that's a nice gesture, but we know how fucking trees work. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's like an iPad next time? Or like Xbox? I don't know.
Now, in 1981, a cargo ship called the Primrose ran aground and 28 people ended up on North Sentinel Island. They were rescued by helicopter, but the North Sentinelese were so unafraid and unimpressed that they shot at the rescue helicopter with their bows and arrows.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Which doesn't make sense because we know they couldn't see it. That's like it's classic. I saw it in a movie.
In 2004, when helicopters flew over the island to assess damage after the tsunami, they shot at that helicopter as well.
I love that they did that twice, because that means that like after they shot arrows at the first one, they must have sat around a fire later going, got him.
Man, if these people get any more isolationist and hostile, we'll have to let them elect some Supreme Court justices, am I right?
In 2006, 2 crab fishermen drifted ashore. Both men were killed and buried. Given this history, you might think that, I don't know, jackass missionaries would pick almost anywhere else at all to try to evangelize, but you would, of course, be wrong. In 2018, John Allen Chow got exactly what he absolutely deserved when he finagled his way onto the beach and stood there singing hymns.
So happy about this story, at least the ending.
To their absolute fucking credit, the North Sentinelese tried twice to chase this idiot away, but when he returned singing his stupid vacation Bible school songs, they filled him full of arrows and buried his dumb corpse.
I feel like they're like, hey, can you show us your CDC card?
It is still unclear if anyone has reached them to discuss their car's extended warranty.
Okay. I think it's time to stop using the word missionary, though. It's intruder with a bad book. That's what that is.
Right. How dare they sully the reputation of vanilla sex in that way? So while we worship some other titles, we're going to pause for a little apropos of nothing.
Tummy slaps. Good evening and welcome to our magical world. I'm Havid Datchenborough, and this evening we have a very special treat. Contact with the mysterious North Sentinelese Island at last, and I have the honor of speaking to one of them this evening. Mr. No Illusions, thank you so much.
Fuck you. Get your fucking microphone on my fucking face.
Yes. Well, that does bring me to my first question. Why such hostility from your tribe over the years to outsiders?
Well, you assholes keep showing up at our fucking home. Like, do you like it when people show up at your house uninvited?
I suppose not.
Even when they bring coconuts. Yeah. So how would you feel if those people showed up at your house with like they were an entirely different color of skin, technology thousands of years in the future from yours, and not speaking your language?
Oh, I guess I wouldn't like that.
No, you wouldn't fucking like it. Every third movie you assholes make is about an alien half as invasive as you, and then you comes along and you blow them up for it.
No, that's true. But what do you suggest we do? I mean, there's so much we could learn from your people sociologically.
Just do what you do with literally every other sociological find throughout history. You rifle through our shit when we're dead. Which, hey, good news. It's going to be any day now thanks to you guys turning the planet into a fucking hot box.
Yep. All right. Well, anything you'd like to tell the outside world? Anything you found particularly impressive in your time here?
My Lucky Charms are pretty good. Keep those. Keep doing that.
Very well, there you have it. The first, and I expect last, recorded conversation with the North Sentinelese Island. You know they make a version that's just the marshmallows.
You're kidding. Really? Nice.
It is, yes.
And we're back. When we last left off, Tom was detailing my retirement plans as though they were everybody's business. Tom, what other forbidden places do you have for us?
Okay, now we're going to actually shift gears and talk about places in the world that are forbidden because some rich fucks won't let you play there. And we're going to start with my favorite. This is the Bohemian Grove Men's Club, which you cannot join unless, that is, you are an ultra-powerful, ultra-wealthy Republican white man. Then you probably actually can join it. The Bohemian Grove Men's Club has been around for a long time, since 1872, in fact. Mark Twain was a member, and literally every Republican president since Coolidge has been a member. All of them since Coolidge.
And also some perfectly nice people who might be related to the adorable heart and soul of your podcast, Tom. You judgy Irish bitch. I'm just saying.
Who are you related to? What? Really?
Yeah.
They let Jewish people in there? No way.
Yeah, they let if you're rich enough, they let some Jews in there.
Wow. Woke. Nice.
The Bohemian Grove Men's Club is in Northern California, nestled among the redwoods, and is actually a campsite with 118 sites around a man-made lake over which a huge owl shrine looks down, waiting to be used for its cremation of care ceremony. More on that in a minute. There are about 2,500 members of this ultra-exclusive club, and I read several articles from people who tried to infiltrate their ranks, and they all emphasize that one of the central values is that the men are allowed to openly piss anywhere they want.
What?
Yeah, for real. From the article,
that's a value?
This is a big deal. From the article Inside Bohemian Grove, Philip Weiss writes, "You know you are inside the Bohemian Grove when you come down a trail in the woods and hear piano music from amid a group of tents and then round a bend to see a man with a beer in one hand urinating into the bushes. This is the most gloried-in ritual of the encampment, the freedom of powerful men to pee wherever they like."
Okay. You'd think the libertarian thing would really break down when you have a urinary freedom policy.
Yeah.
You can be wherever you want. Apparently not. Maybe they're into it.
Okay, I didn't
Support it if
realize
they're
everyone
into
had
it.
such loyalty to toilets at Camp Hockomock or wherever your family goes to. I don't know why I'm defending this.
Now, not every powerful man who's been exposed to BGMC is so enamored of it. Richard Nixon is quoted as calling it the most faggy goddamn thing you could imagine.
Jesus.
While Bill Clinton once told a heckler, quote, "The Bohemian Club? Did you say the Bohemian Club? That's where all those rich Republicans go and stand naked against redwood trees, right?" End quote. So, not for everyone.
Okay, personally, I'd love to find a bunch of Republican guys standing naked against a tree. Like, that's just a weird comment, especially from Bill Clinton. He couldn't think of anything to do at that point.
They see Heath, recognize his intent, start peeing.
Now, I told you we'd circle back to their ceremonies, and here we are. Since most of us can't pay the $25,000 upfront fee or the yearly dues, and none of us are likely to be sponsored by any of the current members, this right here is likely as close as we will ever come to camping and pissing in the great outdoors with Dick Cheney. Imagine a coffin effigy called Care, which is burned while members wearing costumes stand in deference in front of a 40-foot-tall owl statue. This ritual symbolizes something. I don't know. Maybe I'm not doing it justice.
That's tricky.
Here's a quote from that same guy who infiltrated the club. Quote, "At this point, some hamadryads, tree spirits, and another priest or two appeared at the base of the main owl shrine, a 40-foot-tall moss-covered statue of stone and steel at the south end of the lake, and sang songs about care. They told how a man's heart is divided between fantasy and reality, how it is necessary to escape to another world of fellowship among men. Vaguely homosexual undertones suffused this spectacle, as they do much of the ritualized life in the grove. The main priest wore a pink and green satin costume, while a hamadryad appeared before a redwood in a gold-spangled bodysuit dripping with rhinestones. They spoke of fairy unguents that would free men to pursue warm fellowship, and I was reminded of something Herman Wouk wrote about the grove. Men can decently love each other, they always have, but women never quite understand." End quote.
Okay, if you just take that part in isolation, it sounds like a delightful camping retreat with magical fuck stuff and like owls. Republicans ruin everything, is what I'm saying. That sounds great.
Yeah, Fire Island plus an owl isn't quite the satanic haven we were promised, is it? It's like...
And as much fun as it probably sounds to get day drunk in the woods with George W. Bush spraying piss everywhere like a feral tomcat marking his territory, while a guy dressed as Liberace stands in front of an enormous fake bird telling you that it's okay to feel your feelings, you just aren't getting in, guys. So we need to move on to another place you can't go.
Well, I mean, Eli might have an in, but yeah, there's no way he's going to spend multiple consecutive hours in woods. So yeah, no, that's fair. All the way around.
Now, Disney vacations are, as everyone knows, cripplingly expensive, and it is fast becoming entirely out of reach for the majority of middle-class families. Sure, the average middle-class family might be able to save enough in a year to go to Disney if they stay off-site and they are willing to spend the day standing in the unforgiving heat in endless lines. But if you want to even remotely pretend to yourself that you are not miserable, you'll need to keep dipping into the piggy bank for fast passes and accommodations on the property.
Oh, is that like TSA pre-check? They have like a spec.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you can
Gross.
pick the times ahead of time. You just walk right in.
Yep, if you got the money.
It's the best.
The average cost for a family of 4 to spend 5 days at the park is a touch over $6,000, or about 8% of the pre-tax income for that same average American family.
Okay, yeah, that sounds terrible. Like, who would want a family of 4? That's a nightmare.
Okay, you're coming for Disney now, Tom. Disney? What's next? Wet Dreams?
Yeah, Tom, what else do you have in common with Ron DeSantis?
Thank
Okay, that's
you.
just one thing. One thing.
Eli, a couple of your favorite things are Disney and Wet Dreams?
We don't all like,
Dreams?
you don't like Wet Dreams? I feel like a crazy person.
No, that's what? It's extremely frustrating because you have to wake up.
Yeah, but
That's
he
like
came.
the most effortless of all the orgasms.
Thank
Heath. What
you.
the fuck are you
Noah,
talking
we
about?
are a tie. Cecil, if you're hearing this, please write in and just drop how you feel about Wet Dreams in right here. Everyone leave a pause for Cecil.
We won.
wait.
We won. We're going to assume. We won. Eli.
Yeah.
But that's $6,000. We're moving on from Wet Dreams. But that $6,000 is a laughable sum compared to the lavish options available buying into Club 33. This is
do that.
nonsense. Club 33 was originally started by Walt Disney himself as a place to entertain his own guests and business associates, and it is now an ultra-expensive VIP Disney snobbery extravaganza for the mouse-obsessed wealthy. Initial fees to join, if you can get off the wait list, by the way, is about 10 years, ranges between $25,000 and $100,000.
Jesus.
There are also annual fees, which range from the slumming it with Mickey level of $12,500 to the we'll let you fuck Minnie level of $30,000. So your first year at Club 33 is going to cost you between $37,500 and $130,000.
Okay, that's crazy. For that kind of money, you could get peed on by Dick Cheney in the woods. Why would you go to Disney World?
All right, so what do you get if you can get off the waiting list and spend enough to finance a 4-year university degree at Disney? Well, you get access to a really gaudy and tacky lounge area and restaurant. The restaurant is, of course, a restaurant you have to still pay at, and there is a gift shop with designer Club 33 merch you can buy. There's a bunch of memorabilia to look at, and you get some park passes, too. That's kind of it. That's what you get. That's what you fucking get for tens of thousands of dollars. I guess this one is not forbidden so much as it is so fantastically, absurdly not worth it that you'd have to be smelling burnt toast all day, every day to hand over your credit card for this one.
No, wrong. See, Tom didn't even mention you can also rent the bedroom in Cinderella's castle, and you get access to Club 33 only events, including a behind-the-scenes tour of the Haunted Mansion with the Imagineers who made it, and they do it once a year.
Eli, do you think you're making points in your favor right now?
My next essay is about how Scotch is stupid, and you guys, you see how you like it.
I bet you Club 33 is something racist. I bet there's some origin. That's like a Nazi, like Nazi 88. It's like almost an 88 with a little bit missing. Like they didn't want to quite say it.
They actually have this thing called the white glove service. I don't want to get into it.
No, tell us more about that. You were making a really good point a second
it's
ago.
It's a bummer. It's a real
you're
bummer.
a big fan of Walt Disney and everything he's done?
You get
a hand job with a white glove?
It's worse. It's actually worse. It is actually literally worse. People dress like old-timey servants when you stay there. If you stay in the way, it gets worse because one of the things is very famously based on a southern plantation, and until like 2018, the servants there dressed.
Are you serious?
Like people who were not there voluntarily.
Oh my God!
Jesus.
Yeah.
Cool. I have something in common with Ron DeSantis now. It's like ancillary. It's like a tangential.
And
but
me, Heath.
A little
And
bit.
me.
Just this one little thing. I don't like Disney personally.
It's different now.
Yeah, 4 years later, we're kind of not. Yeah.
Yeah, and it has been for almost a presidential administration.
And then there is Robbins Island, which is very likely the single most expensive piece of real estate in the Hamptons, and virtually nothing is known about what is actually there. This 42-acre island was purchased by billionaire Louis Bacon in 1993 for only $11 million, and the property got caught up in a bankruptcy dispute. That property is now worth somewhere in the neighborhood of $500 million, though that number is something of a guess since no one is allowed on the island except for a tiny handful of Bacon's personal guests. As a result, no one really knows how well the land is developed or what kind of infrastructure exists on the island. Satellite images show 2 sizable estates and some outbuildings, but that's really all the detail anyone has about what's on the island.
First guess, urine everywhere. All over.
See, my first guess was at least one of those outbuildings contains a laser that you use to bifurcate the hero while you monologue about your grand plan.
So Bacon intends to keep his privacy. In 1997, Bacon granted a conservation easement to the Nature Conservancy, which made the island a protected wilderness area, and the property has been transferred into a family trust to prevent any further development of the land. Robbins Island exists now as a private Hamptons estate where Bacon occasionally hosts English-style pheasant shoots for his friends, including Jimmy Buffett, but otherwise seems content to just casually own an entire goddamn island in New York. Also, he 100% hunts men for sport on that island.
Yeah.
Okay, round 2, I'm betting on the snakes to beat up the rich people. Tom, I'm really happy about this kumite you're setting up.
Yeah,
I really
it's a
like
good
how
one.
it's shaping up.
Okay, but in his defense, if Jimmy Buffett hunted you for sport, you know he would do it in the chillest way, right?
Right.
He's in a fun shirt. He's got a margarita. He shoots you.
Now, if you find yourself, that's just the end of that. If you find yourself in northern England, you might decide to visit some of the magnificent formal gardens that England is rightfully famous for. If you do, be careful. At the Elmwick Garden, behind a locked gate, is a garden within the garden, full of plants so deadly that some of the few tourists who have visited have on occasion been known to lose consciousness from an ill-chosen smelling of the roses.
Yeah, their cuisine there does the same thing, actually.
It's terrible. In 1995, Jane Percy became the Duchess of Northumberland, and in addition to the title, she also gained Elmwick Castle, which incidentally was the setting of Hogwarts in 2 of the Harry Potter movies. Her husband asked Jane to do something about the gardens, which at the time had been converted to a commercial Christmas tree farm. So Jane set about turning the Christmas tree farm into a sprawling 14-acre manicured garden that attracts over 600,000 visitors a year, but the hidden gem is her garden of lethal plants.
Yeah, when it's my turn to do the dishes, I poison a single spoon. So I get it.
Yeah.
Now, this garden is no joke. Visitors to the garden are only allowed access under the care and supervision of a highly trained guide. Visitors are strictly prohibited, not just from touching or tasting the plants, but even from smelling them.
I like to think don't taste the plants is sort of standard garden rules, Tom. I don't think that has to apply to this one.
Now, this is, as I mentioned before, this is not a theoretical or hyperbolic danger. In the summer of 2013, 7 visitors lost consciousness while on a tour from inhaling toxic fumes from within the garden.
What? Okay, so you mentioned a highly trained guard. what was the guide highly trained in? What did he
And why the
learn?
fuck did he have customers?
I don't have
So
any
you're
idea.
saying everything in there will kill me? Well, howdy!
Maytag repairman of tour guides.
And this I love because the Duchess clearly takes a great deal of pride and interest in her toxic garden. She is quoted in the Smithsonian article I read about this place as saying, "Angel's trumpet is an amazing aphrodisiac before it kills you." She continues, "Angel's trumpet is an amazing way to die because it's quite pain-free. A great killer is usually an incredible aphrodisiac."
What?
She then uncrossed her legs and stabbed Michael Douglas to death with an ice pick.
Okay, first of all, Jane was definitely fucking those plants. Love that. But I'm confused about how the aphrodisiac property is a good thing there. Like, unless you have a really cool escort to the garden, that just means you're dying and you want to fuck, but you can't because, again, you're dying.
Yes,
Right?
Thank you. I don't really. That's
It's
not,
an English thing. He wouldn't get it.
It's like a wet dream, but it's dry. It's a dry dream. That's horrible. And you die.
So I want to leave you with one more beautiful piece of nature you absolutely should leave the fuck alone. This is Quilatoa Crater Lake in Ecuador. This lake is preternaturally beautiful, and to look at it, you might think about how nice it would be to take a swim in its pristine blue water. You absolutely do not want to take a swim in the pristine blue water. First, the lake sits at a ridiculous altitude of 12,500 feet, so it is fucking cold. It is really, really cold. And the air is thin at 12,500 feet, and altitude sickness is not uncommon at that height. So unless you live or train at altitude, you are going to be out of breath just walking around, much less trying to swim in brutally cold water.
Way ahead of you, Tom. I've been practicing being out of breath walking around for years now. Krakatoa, here I come.
And this lake is deep. It is over 800 feet deep in places, with sudden plunging drop-offs. The crater lake formed when a volcano erupted, and the volcanic dome collapsed and filled in with water. And those volcanic deposits make the lake look just insanely beautiful, but they also make the water so acidic that nothing can survive in the lake other than some very hardy microorganisms. Basically, it is a beautiful, inviting lake that is really a cauldron of freezing cold acid water over which the air is so thin that even trying to drink a glass of mango nectar will make you pant.
Okay, like I said, I've been training for 15 months.
I feel like you don't have to bother telling us it's cold and deep when it's also a lake of acid, right?
You kind of buried the lead there, bud.
Also, I'm very cold.
I'm trying to flesh these paragraphs out, Noah. Like, work with me here.
I feel like people are definitely disposing dead bodies there. That seems perfect, right?
Sure.
Yeah, you just have to haul it 12,500 feet up a mountainside. And
If
then,
you do
yeah.
the murder next to it, though.
That's how you invite somebody on an Ecuadorian vacation.
Right. Yo,
Right.
Eli is immune to this form of homicide. I can tell you that.
Eli, you been to Ecuador?
No, I just can't walk
We should go on
upstairs.
vacation.
Together? Yes. Tom and Eli having a bad time for Tom. Bad times for Tom in Europe, or whatever he said.
Ecuador.
Was it Europe?
That's
And if you had to summarize what you've
different.
learned in one sentence other than where Ecuador is, what would it be?
Stay the fuck home.
Eli, where's Ecuador?
America?
Okay.
All right. So are you ready for the quiz, Tom?
I am. Let's do it.
All right, Tom. An acid-frozen lake sounds dangerous, but what forbidden place did you leave off that's far more dangerous? A. A conversation about a mother-daughter threesome.
Oh, shit.
B. Whatever the fuck we watched on E-Baum's World as teenagers. Or C. Being a woman below the Mason-Dixon line.
Oh, that's depressing.
All right. Well, since you're going to suck all the air out of the room, the answer is C.
That's correct.
All right, I got one for you, Tom. Which worship song should that jackass missionary the North Sentinelese people killed have been singing at the time? A. An almost mighty enough fortress is our God. B. His eye is on the arrow. narrow. It's a sparrow. His eye is on the sparrows. Anyway, C, holy, holy, holy shit. Or D, we shall in fact be moved.
Oh, I like D. We shall in fact be moved.
It is D. That is the correct answer.
All right, Tom, one more for you.
All right.
What's the best aspect of my upcoming documentary about the Republican P camp at Bohemian Grove? A, it's called GOP. PP. B, the subtitle is All Lives Bladder. C, the section about Richard Nixon is called Dickie Leaks.
Dickie Leaks!
Or D, Ben Shapiro finally got someone wet.
Secret answer E, I refuse to choose. Those are all too good.
That is correct or not?
Yeah,
Whatever.
it's correct. It's
Noah,
correct.
what do you think?
I think it's correct. All right. Well, obviously the winner is Cecil. He wouldn't even take a tour of these places because they were so forbidden, and I think we can all agree that he would want me to do the next essay. So for Eli, Heath, and Tom, I'm Noah. Thank you for hanging out with us today. We're going to be back next week, and by then, I'll be an expert on something else. Between now and then, you can catch more from Tom and Cecil on cognitive dissonance and more from Eli, Heath, and me on the Scathing Atheist God Awful Movies, The Skeptocrat, and D&D Minus. Also, be sure to check out Tom and Eli's new show on parenting, Dear Old Dads, and Heath, Cecil, and my show on not parenting, Dear Old Having Money and Spare Time. And if you'd like to help keep this show going, you can make a per episode donation at patreon.com/citationpod or leave us a 5-star review everywhere you can. And if you'd like to get in touch with us, check out past episodes, connect with us on social media, or check the show notes, be sure to check out citationpod.com.
Yes, hello? Yes, my queen. No, I'm afraid they didn't take the bait. And Cecil will be back next week. But don't worry. There's still time. There's still time.
Eli, stop trying to do a D&D Minus podcast-averse crossover. Nobody even listens to that show.
I'll listen to it.
What?
Nothing.